focusing on Hersh for a moment, knowing him the way that you do, how do you think he went about coping with, surviving what he went through for these 300 plus days? What do you think his strategy was? How do you think he was able to get through this?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that those beautiful six, and I call them the beautiful six, not because they were actually physically beautiful, although they were, but they each had very beautiful, vivid qualities that we've gotten to know the families. And so we've gotten to hear about these individuals. We now know that those six were together since the very end of November, which means that those six created a family. It was 4 young men and 2 young women, and they were together from the end of November until August 29th, which is the date that they were executed. They were not found until Saturday, August 31st. But I have a feeling Hersh was the youngest of those beautiful six. They all were really vivacious, dynamic. Each one had senses of humor that were different. They were very bright. They were very curious people. One of them was a yoga teacher. She was studying PT. So we're hoping that we know from the release of the first hostages in November, they said she used to do guided meditation for them. So I'm hoping that that was Carmel, and we're hoping that she was still doing that and doing yoga with them and helping. You know, certainly Hersh was critically wounded with one arm, and he was the baby of the group. And I have a feeling that people were really trying to help him. He's always had a good sense of humor, very little ego, very smart, a photographic memory. And I have a feeling they were all getting each other through in different ways. And I think they did absolutely every single thing right to survive in those conditions for 328 days. They were all absolute heroes. And it gives us a tremendous sense of comfort knowing that they were together, they kept each other alive, and they died together.
So you do find comfort in knowing that he was not isolated and alone, that he had the other 5, and you feel like there was a bond among those 6.
Definitely.
You know, we did not know while he was in captivity that he was held with that group of people. So part of the torture for us, beyond everything else, was wondering, is he alone? Is he with other people? What other people? So that was part of the trauma. But as Rachel said, since learning that he was with 5 other people, that he was likely with them in some formation since late November, meaning either all 6 together or in 2 smaller groups at different points in time, but in some formation, those 6 were together for a long time. We talk about it as families, that like within the darkest of the tortures that they went through, we could picture that somehow they made each other smile. They maybe even danced a little bit. 5 of the 6 were taken from the music festival of Unity and Love. And we believe that they made the best of it for each other, and each one for him and herself.
Mm-hmm. And Jon, I wonder if you feel what Rachel said. She said that she has some conflict in feeling a degree of relief, knowing that he has escaped this hellish torture. Do you feel conflict in taking some comfort in knowing that they're no longer torturing your son?
So I share that comfort of saying, at least he's no longer being tortured. And you know what? We got Hersh and the other 5 and brought them home, so to speak. And we gave them proper, respectful burials. And we feel good about that because there are dead bodies that are being held in captivity. We have friends who we've met along this journey who know that their loved ones were murdered in captivity, and those bodies are still being held. So there is comfort in knowing that he's not suffering, Hersh. He's home. He's properly buried. That is all comforting. Obviously, there's so many conflicted feelings, one of which is a sense of failure. And we really try to tell ourselves we didn't fail. We talked to everybody. We went all over the world, meeting world leaders, religious leaders, pushing every possible door. But at the end of the day, the results are binary. We always said either we succeed, which is to say we bring home Hersh and other hostages alive, or we fail. And the result is what it is. So I have a lot of disappointment in the way the world failed to respond to the situation, failed to understand every second is urgent. And it still is for the remaining 101.
Well, it certainly is. And I have to say, and listen, there's nothing I can say that fixes this, but I do hope that you can show yourself some grace, because I know, having dealt with loss with people before, I've had loss in my own life, and I know that the number one stressor in people's life is losing a child, and the number one category within that category is losing one violently and suddenly, as opposed to a chronic disease that stretches out across time, which is horrible enough. But this is the most stressful, horrific event that any parent can ever suffer. And the two of you are going through that, of course. And listen, it's quite natural to take comfort in that no one is hurting your son anymore. And I know both of you are very dedicated in your religion, because we've met before, we've talked about it. I know that you have a deep faith and belief that you find comfort in. And I hope that you'll resolve any conflict in knowing that he is in a better place. And that can seem so trite to say, but when you think about what could be happening to him today that is not happening to him today, that is a real thing. That is a real reward. And I promise you, you're going to find yourself at times where you might be standing in the kitchen or something and look out the window, and a squirrel might do something funny, and you catch yourself laughing, and you'll stop and say, oh my God, what a horrible parent. How can I be laughing when I have a son that is dead and has suffered so much and then died? What kind of parent could be standing here laughing? Or you'll see some crazy sitcom or something, and you'll forget for a second and catch yourself laughing and say, what a horrible parent I must be. Please show yourself some grace, because that's not being a horrible parent. That is finding a way that our minds call time out and heal our hearts in a way that it patches up just a little stitch of pain and gives you some respite. Because as you say, you do have two beautiful children, and they deserve to have 100% of their mom and dad. Right now, they have 100% of their mother and father, but they also need 100% of mom and dad. And moms and dads are different than mothers and fathers. Moms and dads play, and moms and dads focus on what's important to them in a given moment, and that requires you to be 100% there. And pain and grief can be like a stench that you think, well, I walled that off from them. No, it permeates. It's like a stench in a room. It permeates every centimeter of the room. And I really implore you to not try to cordon this off or compartmentalize this, but to talk about Hersh all the time. talk about him during holidays, talk about him on his birthday, talk about him at times that you shared as a family, because giving it a voice and remembering him with them, at first that may bring tears to your eyes, but I promise you, you know him. I did not know him, but I've seen so many pictures of him, and he radiated so much joy, and his smile was infectious. He would not want to be a source of pain for the rest of your lives. He would want to know that you cared, but if he thought every time you thought of him, it hurt, he would think, what did I spend all of those years in their lives for if I didn't become a source of joy and create memories that would bring happiness to their hearts? You know that that's what he wants. And if every time you thought of him, he thought, boy, I create a lot of pain in their lives, there's no joy that I left behind, you know he would not want that. So you've got to give yourself permission. I'm glad you do.
We say that all the time, that we feel for sure that he would absolutely want us to be happy. And we do already, tell stories and start laughing. And we know that that is what he would be desiring for us. And we know that's what we want for ourselves. And we even I said today to someone, if God forbid 1,000,000 times I had been kidnapped and this had happened to me, I would be devastated if my family was miserable for the rest of their lives because they were missing me. I would want them to love me, and I would want them to go on to have happy and meaningful lives while missing me. It's okay. Everybody in life goes through something challenging, and we happen to be having a real triple dose at this moment.